Exploring the Louisiana Purchase? The United States wanted desperately to know what was inside the Louisiana Territory. Was it going to be useful land? What could the land be used for? What was already there? Who was already living there? The Louisiana Purchase was full of potential. We more than doubled the size of the United States with one fell swoop. And there was an unrealized capacity for economic expansion. People could live there. People could harvest the minerals and resources of the land. Sending people west. There's more room for an increase in population. It's getting kind of crowded back east. We can send those people to the west. They can have their own land. They can have free land. And it's a possible region for the relocation of the Eastern American Indians who have that land in the southeastern United States in Georgia and Alabama and Florida that the United States really desires and wants. Jefferson wants to examine the land. So President Jefferson, because he knows very little about the land, wants to send out expeditions to examine the region and conduct scientific research so we know just what we have. We want to know just what's in our box. Exploration is going to define the limits of this territory purchased from the French. We'll know what's ours, and we'll also know what doesn't belong to Spain, which is going to border us on the south. Lewis and Clark expedition. So we have, at first, the Lewis and Clark expedition from 1804 to 1806, where Captain Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant William Clark are sent on an exploratory expedition in 1804. They successfully navigated and explored the northern portion of the Louisiana Purchase and the Oregon Territory, which is all the way on the west coast. Sparks expedition. Then we have the Sparks expedition. In 1806, Captain Richard Sparks led an expedition into the southwestern portion of the Louisiana Purchase in order to explore and record the region, to establish boundaries between Spanish territory and the United States, and to create positive connections with the American Indian tribes that live within this territory. Astronomer and medical student? We know there's people who live there. Now the Sparks expedition includes people like the astronomer Thomas Freeman and medical student Peter Cutis, Spanish cavalry. Now the group travels north on the Red River, and the Caddo American Indians tell the expedition they're being followed by the Spanish. Further north, the Spanish catch up to them and their cavalry confronts the group. And the Spanish cavalry, or horsemen, demand that the men return to the United States, and so the expedition has to turn around, right away, without having achieved any of its original goals. Military expedition to find head of Arkansas and Red Rivers. Now the Pike-Wilkinson expedition is going to go slightly differently. Lieutenant Zebulon Pike leads a military expedition into southwestern Louisiana in 1806. And he's joined by Lieutenant James Biddle Wilkinson and 22 others, and their goals are to find the headwaters of both the Red and Arkansas rivers. Show of goodwill. Osage captives? They want to find out where these rivers start, where's the head of these rivers, and they want to work on those relationships with the American Indian tribes that they find there. And they also want to learn about the Spanish presence in those borderlands, and so they escort over 50 Osage captives back to their home on the Mississippi River as a show of goodwill. 2 groups and a rest, and they navigate the Arkansas River into present-day Colorado, and in December, they decide to split the expedition into 2 parts, and into 2 groups, who are going to take 2 separate routes. First, we have Pike, who goes on one route, and Wilkinson, who goes on the other. Now Lieutenant Pike's journey explores, all the way up the Arkansas River. He explores the headwaters of the Arkansas River, searching for the source of the Red River. He explores the Rocky Mountains and enters Spanish territory, and there he is arrested by Spanish soldiers, and finally released July 1, 1807, in Cutis, Louisiana. Pike goes through Texas and New Mexico, and we can see that Pike takes the long way around, goes all the way up back into Colorado, down through New Mexico, is taken down into Mexico through Texas, and finally released in Cutis. Then we have Lieutenant Wilkinson, the other member of the journey, who took a separate group, and he and his small party traveled down the southeastern portion of the Arkansas River, Oklahoma and Arkansas, and the shallow, icy waters there forced the party to walk during portions of the trip. They can't take the river the entire way. They travel through Oklahoma into Arkansas until the river connects with the Mississippi. At that point, their boat overturns, dumping their supplies, and adding a very high degree of difficulty to their journey. Return to St. Louis, and describes the region, Oklahoma, and Osage, natural resources. So the party had to return to St. Louis shortly thereafter, in February of 1807, and you can see that Wilkinson actually has a much shorter route. So the significance of the Pike-Wilkinson expedition is that Pike's report described the plains and the grasslands in the region southwest of the Mississippi River, and Wilkinson's report described life in Oklahoma, and that was the first American account of what life was like among the Plains tribes in Oklahoma. They described the Osage, their many conflicts with other tribes around them, and their desire to trade, which interests the Americans. They also comment on the region's abundant natural resources, the lead mines, and the salt prairies, and so on. This is a place that the Americans want to get to because they can use the resources that are there. The Louisiana Purchase? Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant William Clark were sent on an exploratory expedition in 1804, called the Lewis and Clark Expedition. They navigated and explored the northern portion of the Louisiana Purchase and the Oregon Territory on the west coast. The Sparks Expedition? The Sparks Expedition was a grand excursion to explore the southwestern part of the Louisiana Purchase 1806. Captain Richard Sparks, Thomas Freeman, and Peter Custis led the journey up the Red River. The expedition was stopped by a Spanish army near the edge of Oklahoma. Sparks decided to turn back, but they did gather much information. The Pike-Wilkinson Expedition? Zebulon Pike explored the upper Mississippi region in 1805, and followed with another, in 1806 along the Arkansas and Red Rivers. Lieutenant James Wilkinson led a part of Pike's group to explore the Arkansas River. Wilkinson's team survived winter hardships to share information about the Osage and